discover the miraculous wives of the 12 tribes. Shocking divine truths, fulfilled and revealed. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, Jacob, weary and desperate, flees the wrath of his brother Esau, whose anger burns like the midday sun. With heavy steps, he journeys toward the land of his mother Rebekah, seeking refuge from the consequences of his own deceit. The rugged hills of Gilead rise and fall beneath him, echoing the turmoil within his heart, filled with regret for the birthright he stole, and the blessing he deceived his father Isaac to obtain. As the sun sinks low, casting an orange hue across the heavens, Jacob reaches a well in Laban's land, tired yet filled with anticipation. It is here that his eyes meet those of a stunning young woman named Rachel. In that instant, destiny awakens, a bond igniting between them that carries the weight of prophetic promise. The hope and longing sparkling in her eyes mirror his own, a divine spark coursing through the moment. Eagerly, Jacob approaches her, feeling the pulse of something greater than himself drawing them together. In his love for Rachel, Jacob swiftly arranges to serve Laban for 7 years, a testament to his devotion. Yet, unbeknownst to him, Laban harbors a cunning plan, veiled in darkness. When the time comes, under the cover of night, Laban deceives Jacob, giving him Leah, the elder sister, instead. Jacob awakens to the reality of his betrayal. His heart aches, heavy with sorrow as the truth crashes over him like a wave against the shore. Leah, with her weary eyes, feels the sting of rejection, yet remains resolute in faith, knowing God has a purpose. And so, the Lord opens Leah's womb, allowing her to bear sons, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, each name a reflection of her pain, longing, and desire for Jacob's love. Meanwhile, Rachel's heart simmers with envy and desperation, prompting her to call upon her maid Bilhah, offering her as a surrogate. Bilhah bears Dan and Naphtali, moments of temporary triumph for Rachel that only deepen the rivalry between the sisters, as their household becomes a fierce competition of motherhood. Days transform into months as the struggle intensifies. Leah, yearning for Jacob's affection, responds by giving her own maid, Zilpah, to Jacob, leading to the births of Gad and Asher. The household dynamics thrum with an intensity fueled by unresolved tensions and divine orchestration. Amidst the discord, Rachel finally conceives and bears Joseph, a beacon of hope. Yet the jealousy that has festered between the sisters threatens to unravel their already fragile peace. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As Rachel's joy mingles with the bitterness of rivalry, her heart knows the path of grace intertwined with strife. Each child, each birth, becomes a testament of God's covenant promises, yet the storm brews within the sisters' hearts. The ultimate trial awaits, for the birth of Benjamin, a child of promise for Rachel, will soon bring forth a divine sorrow that alters their shared legacy. Through pain and longing, God's sovereign hand weaves his design across their lives, leading them toward a greater purpose. What will become of Jacob's family amid such fierce rivalry? And how will God's promises manifest in this fraught environment? The threads of divine mystery remain. Only time will reveal the fullness of his plan. In the days that followed the birth of Joseph, the household of Jacob continued to be a tumult of competition and anxiety. Rachel, now more fervently than ever, longed for a second son, whom she believed would complete the longing in her heart. The air was thick with the tension of unspoken desires as Leah watched her sister's aspirations unfold. In the coolness of the evening, Rachel spurred forward in her anguish, beseeching Jacob with cries that mingled sorrow and frustration. "Give me sons, or else I die," she declared, her voice breaking with despair, as she turned to Jacob, who stood with furrowed brow, wrestling with the complexities of love and faithfulness. Yet, in his heart, Jacob lamented her plight but reflected, Am I in the place of God who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb? In this moment of anguish, Rachel resolved to act, taking the same path as her sister before her. She brought forth Bilhah, her maid, again as a surrogate. Go, sleep with her, that she may bear children on my knees, that I too may have children through her. This act, both desperate and defiant, bore the names of profound emotion: Dan, who signifies God has vindicated me, and Naphtali, representing Rachel's strife, a reminder of the competition that had marked their days. Leah, not to be outdone, upon hearing of Rachel's triumph, hastened to offer her own maid, Zilpah, igniting the flames of rivalry anew. With Zilpah, Jacob fathered Gad, whom Leah called, "A troop comes," and Asher, heralding, "Blessed am I, for the daughters will call me blessed." As the months rolled onward in relentless cycles of birth and jealousy, each son became a testament to their unrelenting pursuit of love and recognition. Yet beneath this fray dwelled a deeper mystery. God watched over them, his purposes silently intertwining their fates. In time, Leah too bore more sons, Issachar and Zebulun, her spirit finding solace in these blessings, while her heart remained weighted under the shadow of Rachel's envy. It was in the flourishing of grudges that Rachel grasped onto hope, and one fateful day, a moment of divine intervention came. Rachel conceived at last. The news resounded through Jacob's tent like a triumphant melody. God has taken away my reproach, Rachel rejoiced, and when she bore her son Benjamin, she named him Ben-Oni, son of my sorrow, for her body had grown weary with the trials of bearing children. In her anguish, the Lord called her home, leaving Jacob to stifle his weeping, embraced by the specter of loss and hope interlaced. This son, Benjamin, held within his very name an everlasting echo of Rachel's unquenched longing, and yet the grace of God stretched forth through the threads of their lineage. For indeed, from these 12 sons, a nation would arise, bursting forth into promises uncounted. What will come of Jacob now that he is rendered father to a multitude? The chaos of his household gives birth to Israel, a nation set apart for mighty works of the Lord. In the swirling tapestry of their lives, God's sovereign plan lay like a treasure just beneath the surface. Would Jacob recognize it? Would he see the line drawn by divine promise from his family to a calling yet fulfilled? The great promise loomed large, a deliverance foreseen by prophets, a legacy written in the stars. The days to come would uncover the mystery of God's great design, as he prepares to breathe life into the covenant that would span generations. And it came to pass, after the death of Rachel, that Jacob mourned greatly. He wept for the wife he had loved with all his heart, and the absence of her laughter left a void in his soul. As days turned into weeks, Jacob's heart still grieved, yet amidst the sorrow, the Lord whispered to him, refreshing his spirit. "Rise up, Jacob," the Lord spoke in his dreams. "Go forth to the land of your fathers, to the land where I will reveal my promise, for I have chosen you and your sons to become a great nation." With a heavy heart yet a heart renewed, Jacob gathered his sons, who now numbered 12, and he spoke to them with the voice of a father and prophet. "Listen, my children, you are the sons of Israel, and through you, the hope of the world shall arise. The Lord has given us a legacy that will be passed down through each of your lineages." As Jacob summoned each son to speak his blessing, he began with Reuben, the firstborn, who he claimed with tender yet firm words. "You are my strength, and the beginning of my might. You are the excellency of dignity, and the excellency of power. Yet you must strive to overcome your impetuosity, for a double-minded heart will lead to ruin." Reuben trembled under Jacob's gaze. He felt the burden of expectation weigh upon him, yet he swore to seek the Lord and uphold the family's legacy. To Simeon and Levi he spoke of their fierceness. "You have been instruments of violence, fierce in anger. Be united, yet remember to use your strength in the service of peace. For the Lord calls for mercy, not wrath." Then, as he looked upon Judah, his eyes glinted with pride. "Judah, you are he whom your brothers shall praise. Your hand shall be upon the neck of your enemies. The scepter shall not depart from you, nor a lawgiver from between your feet, until Shiloh comes, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be." With each blessing, Jacob spoke of their futures, expanding upon their destinies, destined to be woven into the rich tapestry of Israel's journey. As he reached the end, he turned to Joseph, who had already proven himself wise in adversity. "Even in the trials you have faced, the Lord was with you, shaping you to be a leader of your brothers. In your hands, the grain for survival shall be preserved, and through you, families shall flourish." The earth trembled with profound emotions as the sons gathered around their father, standing united yet distinct within their individual callings. For God's sovereign hand guided their paths, even through the tempests of life. As Jacob laid down to rest, he uttered a final plea. "Gather my sons, for I shall be gathered to my people. I shall rest with my forefathers, but do not forget, for you are destined to carry forth the promise of redemption." Thus, whispered voices echoed within the camp. The sons, fierce yet resolute, would hold dear their father's legacy. They felt the weight of a divine purpose, not merely to exist, but to thrive as a nation that would testify to God's unfailing faithfulness. Yet hidden in their hearts was a question that lingered. How could they fulfill such grand promises amid uncertainty and strife? As Jacob breathed his last, darkness fell around them, and a stirring began. In the heavens, a new plan unfurled, one that would astound the hearts of men and beckon them towards the fulfillment of prophecy yet to be unveiled. For through this family, God would lead unto the world a covenant of hope, one that would change the course of history. And it came to pass, after the breath of Jacob departed from him, that his sons lifted their voices in mourning and wept bitterly. They laid him in the cave of Machpelah, in the field of Ephron the Hittite, which he had purchased as a burying place, for there lay the bodies of Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, and Leah, whom Jacob had buried there also. As they mourned, Joseph, the favored son, wept and fell upon his father, kissing his brow. "Father, you have shown us the sun in our darkest times. Yet now I stand in shadow, for you have gone unto your eternal rest." The words of the son echoed in the valleys of their hearts, for fear gripped them tightly. And the sons gathered together, saying, "What shall we do now? Our father has departed, and Joseph, our brother, whom we sold into slavery, reigns over us in Egypt. Shall we seek mercy, or shall we fear his might against us for our past transgressions?" But Joseph, having seen the sorrow in their eyes, spoke gently, "Do not be afraid, for what you intended for evil, God intended for good, to save many people alive. You see, through our father's prophecy, the Lord prepared a path for our deliverance." Thus, emboldened by his words yet still unsettled, they returned to their tents. As the days turned into weeks, a famine arose in the land of Canaan, and the dust of despair spread over the earth. The brothers, desperate, gathered their grain and turned their faces toward Egypt, seeking sustenance in the land where Joseph was. With anxious hearts they journeyed, not knowing the plans God had laid before them. When they arrived in the land of Egypt, they stood before Joseph, who was now adorned in the garments of authority, a governor over all the land. Joseph's heart stirred within him as he perceived his brothers, for many years had passed since he had seen their faces. Yet he remained concealed from their sight, testing their hearts, asking them, "Where do you come from?" They replied, "From the land of Canaan to buy food." And in their eyes, he recognized their anguish, yet he saw the seed of redemption, knowing that the time had come for his family to be united once again. In moments of confusion, he spoke harshly to them, "You are spies, come to see the nakedness of the land." Fear washed over them, and they bowed before him, saying, "No, my lord, we are but 12 brothers, sons of one man in the land of Canaan. Our youngest is now with our father, and one is no more." Joseph's heart ached, yet was filled with resolve. He sought a way to restore them, to compel them to bring their youngest brother Benjamin to him, testing their hearts and revealing their true motives. In the stillness of that night, Joseph wept alone, for in his heart he desired to reveal himself to his brothers, to speak of their father and the promise that rested upon their lineage. He remembered Jacob's last words, the fate of the tribes, and the hope that was yet to come. But he remained hidden, for greater truths lay entwined in God's sovereign plan, a tapestry yet to be woven, For it is written that the deliverance of the children of Israel would not just be in the grains of Egypt, but in the miracle of reconciliation and unity through trials. Thus the essence of their tribulation was about to unfold, for the covenant promise was alive, awaiting fulfillment in the heart of a brother, a deep reunion that would change the fate of God's chosen people. And as the sun rose, a new dawn beckoned, for the Lord's purposes would be revealed. And through the broken pieces of a fractured family, the world would witness the miracle of grace and redemption unfold like the dawn of a new day. And it came to pass, as the famine stretched forth across the land, that Joseph commanded the overseers of his storehouses, "Fill the sacks of these men with grain, and put every man's money back in his sack, and give them provisions as they journey back home." Thus the brothers returned, burdened with sustenance and a weight of confusion, for they were unaware of Joseph's true intentions. As they stood in the presence of their father Jacob in the land of Canaan, they recounted the strange events in Egypt. "Surely the man who reigns is a powerful sorcerer," Reuben exclaimed, "for he spoke harshly unto us, and cast us into prison." Jacob's heart was heavy, and he mourned, saying, "You have bereaved me. Joseph is no more, and now you seek to take Benjamin away. All these things are against me." Yet despite the despair, the brothers assured him, "We must find favor in the eyes of the ruler, or we shall perish in this famine." In the face of their father's sorrow, the brothers, emboldened by Joseph's command, pledged, "We shall return unto Egypt, though the fear of our past haunts us. We will bring Benjamin, for we believe there might be mercy if we obey." When they arrived again in Egypt, this time with Benjamin, Joseph's heart swelled at the sight of his brother. His spirit rejoiced, for he saw in Benjamin the reflection of their father's love. He instructed the overseer of his house, "Make ready a feast, for our family will dine with me today." And as they were brought into Joseph's house, fear gripped the brothers. They whispered among themselves, "Why has this ruler brought us to his house? Is it to punish us for the money that was returned?" Yet Joseph approached them with kindness, and when he saw Benjamin, he was moved to the depths of his soul. He discreetly exited, as tears flowed from his blessed eyes, a burden of years laid upon him. After composing himself, he returned to the table, where he sat them before him according to their birthright. Joseph, fulfilling his brotherly affection, asked, "Is your father well, the old man of whom you spoke? Is he still alive?" They nodded. "Our father lives." As the meal was served, sweet and savory dishes graced the table, and laughter bubbled as they spoke of old memories. But Joseph covertly tested them further, placing Benjamin's portion on his plate 5 times more than the others. "Why has this been done?" they marveled, for such favor invoked both joy and dread within their hearts. That night, as the stars shimmered above, Joseph sent for his steward and instructed him, "Fill the youngest brother's sack with an extra measure of grain, and place my silver cup in the sack's mouth." The steward obeyed and sent them on their way at dawn. Yet, before they ventured far from the city, Joseph commanded his steward, "Chase after them quickly, confront them with the cup, for they must understand their foolishness." The steward caught them and accused them of theft. "Why have you repaid kindness with evil? The cup of the governor is found among you." The brothers were struck with fear, each presenting their innocence and saying, "With whomsoever it be found, let him die, and we will be your bondsmen." The steward replied, "Let it be. But only the one with whom it is found shall be my servant. The rest shall return." In that moment the cup was discovered in Benjamin's sack, and their hearts sank, for they feared the loss of their beloved brother. Thus they returned to Joseph's house in despair, knowing the weight of sin they bore from the past. And Joseph, seeing their sorrow and genuine remorse, knew that the moment had come. As he stood before them, he could no longer restrain himself. Yet within the depths of this trial, the divine plan unfolded, and he spoke the words of reconciliation, revealing his identity. "I am Joseph, your brother." But what they did not yet know was that through this grave testing, God's sovereign plan to save not only the brothers but nations would soon be fully unveiled, bringing forth a lineage destined to be remembered throughout all generations. And as Joseph revealed himself to his brothers, silence fell upon them like a heavy shroud. They could not believe their ears, for the man who had once been their brother, sold into slavery, now stood before them, adorned in garments of power. The sight of him stirred memories long buried, bringing forth both shame and awe. "Come near to me," Joseph beckoned, his voice trembling with emotion. The brothers hesitated, their hearts pounding with fear and regret. "I am Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. But do not be distressed, nor be angry with yourselves for selling me here, for God sent me before you to preserve life." With trembling fingers and quivering hearts they stepped closer, their eyes wide with fear and disbelief. The weight of their past sins hung heavily upon them, yet what they heard next pierced through the veil of their guilt. "For these 2 years the famine has been in the land, and there are still 5 years to come, during which there will be neither plowing nor harvest. And God sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant on earth, and to keep alive for you many survivors." The revelation hung in the air, enveloping them in a mix of hope and fear. Joseph continued, "So it was not you who sent me here, but God. He has made me a father to Pharaoh, and lord of all his house and ruler over all the land of Egypt." As he spoke, the brothers began to understand that beneath Joseph's pain lay a greater purpose orchestrated by the Almighty. The hearts of the brothers softened, and they clasped one another, tears mingling as they mourned their wrongdoing. Judah, stepping forward, said, "O my lord, let your servant speak a word in my lord's ears, and let not your anger burn against your servant, for you are like Pharaoh himself." Joseph, filled with compassion, saw before him not just the brothers he once knew, but transformed men shaped by guilt and sorrow. "I will send for my father," he declared, "and bring him here, for I yearn to see his face." And so, he instructed his brothers, "Do not quarrel on the way. Instead, go up to my father and say to him, 'Thus says your son Joseph, God has made me lord of all Egypt. Come down to me. Do not tarry.'" The brothers, filled with joy and awe, departed from Joseph's presence, their hearts now lightened. As they journeyed back towards Canaan, they spoke amongst themselves of the grace they had received, and the forgiveness that had been extended to them. They remembered the visions and dreams of their youth, understanding that God was weaving together the strands of their lives for a greater purpose. As they reached the land of their father, they approached him with reverence, saying, "Joseph is alive. He is ruler over all the land of Egypt." Jacob's heart was nearly overwhelmed with disbelief, yet as he contemplated the unfolding mystery before him, a spark of hope ignited within him. In that moment, God's sovereign plan was becoming clear, for these events were but the beginnings of fulfillments yet to come. A great nation would rise from the loins of Jacob, and through them, the world would soon witness a lineage that would usher forth salvation. But amid this unfolding narrative, a deeper truth lingered, hidden beneath the surface, a divine revelation, yet to be fully grasped. For God's faithfulness would continue to weave a story beyond even their understanding, leading forth to a promise filled with astonishing grace and unending love. And Jacob's heart, having heard the words of his sons, was strengthened, for the hope of seeing Joseph ablaze within him like a beacon. Yet he wrestled with the shadows of doubt, recalling the sorrow he had endured at the loss of his beloved son. "Is this truly so?" Jacob inquired, his voice trembling with uncertainty. "Our words are true, father," the brothers implored. "Joseph lives, and he commands all Egypt. He longs to see you, and we are to bring you there." Then Jacob's spirit was rekindled, his faith surging like a mighty river. "It is enough. Joseph, my son, is still alive. I will go and see him before I die," he declared with a heart full of determination. As they readied to depart, Jacob offered sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac, calling upon the name of the Lord, for he sought divine guidance for the journey ahead. In the stillness of the night, as he lifted his heart to heaven, he beheld a vision of the Lord standing before him. "Jacob, Jacob," the voice called unto him, "I am the God of your father Isaac. Fear not to go down into Egypt, for I will make of you a great nation there. I will go with you to Egypt, and I will also surely bring you up again." Awakened and emboldened by divine assurance, Jacob gathered his family. He took with him his sons, their wives, and all the children, bound together in a journey toward the land of hope. Crossing into Egypt, they beheld the splendor of the land, a realm overseen by Joseph, who awaited them with a heart full of love. As they approached the gates of the city, Joseph, in all his glory, rode forth in haste, his chariot a brilliance of gold and joy. When Jacob laid eyes upon his son, his heart erupted with overwhelming emotion. They embraced with tears flowing freely, each one a river of years lost and memories reclaimed. "Now let me die, since I have seen your face, and know that you are alive." Jacob wept, his body trembling in gratitude. Joseph led them into his house, and there he presented them to Pharaoh, who inquired of their well-being. With wisdom and reverence, Joseph spoke of the shepherds they were, directing his brothers to explain their craft, that they might find favor in the eyes of the king. Pharaoh, hearing the need of the family, welcomed them into the best of the land of Goshen, promising them provision during the years of famine. Thus, the family of Jacob settled in Egypt, their lineage safeguarded in the embrace of divine purpose. And it came to pass, as the years flowed, that the Israelites prospered and multiplied exceedingly, filling the land with their presence. Yet they remained strangers in a foreign land, a seed sown in anticipation of harvest to come. But amidst their growth, the heart of God was still at work, crafting a covenant through trials that would shape a nation of promise. And all this was but a shadow of the greater story hidden in the depths of time, where one day, from this lineage, would arise a deliverer to save not just a nation, but the world from sin's grasp. For God's sovereign plan was unfolding, and with it, a mystery whispered through the ages beckoning. What further wonders does the Lord have in store for those who trust in his promises? And it came to pass in those days that Jacob and his family dwelt in the land of Goshen, flourishing as they put down roots in fertile soil. The years flowed like rivers, and the blessings of the Lord were abundant upon them. They grew numerous, like stars scattered across the vast expanse of night, a living testament to God's promise spoken to their forefather Abraham. As the children of Israel multiplied, so did their strength and prosperity. Yet within the echoes of laughter and life, there lingered a shadow that whispered of trials yet to come. For Joseph, who had risen to great power in Egypt, bore witness to a reality far beyond mere abundance. He understood the hand of God at work, orchestrating events for purposes he could not yet fully comprehend. In the courts of Pharaoh, the whispers of enmity began to stir as a new king arose who did not know Joseph. This Pharaoh looked upon the Israelites not with favor, but with suspicion, fearing their increasing numbers, their strength, and potential power. "What if they rise against us?" he pondered, and a plan began to seep into his heart. Joseph, though burdened by the weight of foresight, continued to care for his family and their needs, tending to the affairs of the land. He spoke often of the dream that once guided him, of sheaves bowing down and stars in reverence, realizing that his dreams were but a fragment of a far larger narrative crafted by the Almighty. During this time, the eyes of the Lord searched the hearts of men. He observed not only the actions of Pharaoh, but the lives of Israel's mothers, whose strength bore a pivotal role in the unfolding saga. The wife of Jacob bore children, revered matriarchs whose faith would transcend generations. Leah and Rachel, along with their maidservants, began to bring forth sons, and amid their struggles, unspoken hopes lingered. Hopes that their lineage would fulfill the promises made to their forefathers. One day, as Jacob sat in the warmth of the evening sun with his sons surrounding him, he witnessed a divine moment, the birth of another child, a son born to Rachel, her heart's longing finally fulfilled in the gift of Joseph's brother Benjamin. And Jacob spoke unto the boy, saying, "Your name shall signify both sorrow and joy, reflecting the trials of your mother, and yet your laughter shall break forth like spring after a harsh winter." But it was not only at home that divine mysteries were unfolding. Far beyond the borders of Egypt, in the hearts of the people and in the fabric of time, God's plan was intricately weaving trials, deliverance, and lessons designed for a nation to grow, not merely in number but in spirit and understanding of their God. As an oppressive spirit began to settle over Egypt, and the lives of the Israelites grew weary under the Pharaoh's weight, Moses, hiding among the shadows of their hardship, was being prepared through formative experience for divine liberation. Yet, even now, the shadow of God's promise loomed over everything, questions hanging in the air like clouds before a storm. What awaited them in the depths of sorrow? How would their faith be sealed in trials that molded them for glory? In every heartache and in every smile of their children, one truth remained threaded deep within. God's sovereign plan would not falter. Indeed, it awaited its divine moment of revelation. For the world would soon see the great deliverance their cries had invoked, a moment that would bend the very fabric of history, beckoning forth the deliverer. What divine truths would emerge from the next chapters of their lives as they faced the adversity ahead? And it came to pass that in the shadows of prosperity, the murmurings of Pharaoh transformed into a decree, a weight upon the shoulders of the children of Israel. The new king spoke with cunning words. Let us deal shrewdly with them, lest they multiply and join unto our enemies. Thus began the oppression. The taskmasters were set over them, and the Israelites were made to serve with rigor. Yet, amidst the toil, the strength of the women shone bright. The midwives of Israel, Shiphrah and Puah, were filled with holy courage. When summoned by Pharaoh to slay the male children at birth, they feared God more than man, and resolved not to carry out his wicked command. They answered the king, saying, Because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, they are lively and deliver before the midwives come unto them. And the Lord dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and waxed very mighty. In time, even the hearts of the oppressors yielded to the resilience of God's people, for Israel grew in number, stronger still. And this was a testimony of the promise God made to Abraham. Jacob, now aging, felt the heaviness of the burden that night when he prayed, pleading for God's mercy upon his sons. O Lord, remember your covenant with our fathers. In our anguish, grant us deliverance. Let your arm be our salvation. And as he prayed, God's Spirit moved throughout the earth, assuring that the cries of his people would not go unheard. Meanwhile, a child was born into the darkness of despair, a boy named Moses, who would carry the weight of destiny upon his shoulders. Hidden in the bulrushes, he became a symbol of salvation. His mother, Jochebed, entrusted her son to the waters of the Nile, believing against all odds that God would not forsake them. She placed her hope in the winds of providence and destiny intertwined. Pharaoh's daughter came down to bathe, her heart moved by the sight of the baby. With compassion she reached for Moses, saying, This is one of the Hebrews' children. She adopted him, raising him as her own, unknowing that her choice would be the spark of divine liberation. In the years that followed, Moses grew in wisdom and strength, but he bore the weight of two worlds, one of the palace, and the other an enslaved nation. He wandered among his people, witnessing their affliction, and in his heart ignited a fire of righteousness that longed for justice. One day when he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, the anger within him surged. He struck the Egyptian and hid him in the sand, yet the act left a stain upon his soul. Fleeing into the deserts of Midian, he became a shepherd, yet even in exile God had not forgotten him. The desert whispered stories of the heavens, and the mountains echoed the cries of Israel. On a certain day, as Moses led his flock, he saw a bush that blazed without being consumed. The voice of the Lord spoke from the flame, saying, Moses, Moses! He trembled in awe, for he understood he stood on holy ground. I am that I am, the voice declared. I have seen the affliction of my people, and I have come down to deliver them. In that moment, the gravity of the divine plan became clearer. God had chosen a vessel for his purpose, and the time was drawing near for Israel's redemption. Yet within Moses' heart lingered questions and hesitations. Who am I that I should go unto Pharaoh? At the crossroads of faith and fear, the Almighty would remind him of his power, establishing his covenant anew. For as darkness thickened over Egypt, the dawn of deliverance would break, heralding the coming of a new era. What lessons of faith would emerge from the struggle? How would the Lord's might be displayed in the face of tyranny? The next chapter of their journey awaited, poised to reveal the miraculous workings of God's sovereign hand for the people of Israel. And it came to pass that the plagues of Egypt became a testimony of God's unyielding power and of his resolve to redeem his people. As Moses stood before Pharaoh, the stubborn heart of the king refused to yield. Each encounter, every demand to let the people go, brought forth a new manifestation of divine authority. The Nile turned to blood, the plagues of frogs and gnats tormented the land, and swarms of flies descended upon the Egyptians as a testament to God's sovereignty. Even amid hardship, the Israelites watched in awe, knowing that their cries had reached heaven. God had not turned away from their suffering. Instead, the very trials they faced birthed a confidence in the promise of liberation. Each plague was a call to the heart of Pharaoh, urging him to submit before the one true God. Yet Pharaoh's heart hardened, refusing to acknowledge that the God of Israel controlled the winds and the rivers, the skies and the earth. When the hail fell like stones, devastating the fields, and when the locusts came forth, consuming all green matters, the Egyptians recoiled in fear. Yet still, Pharaoh remained resolute. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "I shall send the final plague. At midnight I will go out into Egypt and strike down all the firstborn of the land, both man and beast." A cry would rise throughout Egypt, one of such anguish that would resonate through generations. But God placed a protective covering over his people. Through Moses, he set forth instructions. "Let each household take a lamb without blemish and sacrifice it at twilight. Smear its blood upon the doorposts, for when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you." With fervent hearts the Israelites obeyed, knowing that in their faith lay the seeds of salvation. That night, as the darkness settled and the stars shone like promises kept, they gathered with their families, recounting the faithfulness of God as they partook in the Passover meal. Their hearts were fixed on the promise of freedom, their spirits stirred with expectation. And behold, at the midnight hour, the Lord passed through the land of Egypt. A great cry erupted, for there was not a house among the Egyptians where someone had not died. The weight of judgment fell at his feet, yet upon Israel there was a divine silence, a holy hush, for their deliverance was at hand. Pharaoh, driven to anguish, summoned Moses and Aaron, and with trembling lips he uttered the words that would change the course of history. "Rise up, go out from among my people, both you and the children of Israel. Go, serve the Lord as you have said." Thus the Israelites journeyed forth from the land of bondage, taking with them the treasures of Egypt, a testimony of their liberation. As they crossed the desert, the breath of freedom filled their lungs, and with every step, they revered the God who had orchestrated their escape. But the king's heart soon turned again in pursuit of vengeance, leading his armies toward the Israelites with chariots thundering like a storm. As the children of Israel stood before the Red Sea, fear gripped their hearts. They saw the mountains of despair rising before them. Yet Moses, standing firm in faith, lifted his rod before the turbulent waters, proclaiming, "Fear not. Stand firm and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will work for you today." The waters parted, and the path became dry land, a miraculous display of God's power. They passed through the sea, walls of water on either side, while the breath of God sent forth a mighty wind to lead them. The Lord, their mighty deliverer, was with them, each step sealing their identity as a chosen people. As they emerged safely on the other side, they turned to see the armies of Pharaoh engulfed by the returning waters, swallowed by divine judgment. With joyous hearts, they sang a song of victory unto the Lord, proclaiming his greatness. "The Lord is my strength and my song. He has become my salvation." In the wilderness, they began their journey of learning, for God desired to shape them into a holy nation, a people bound by covenant love and faithfulness. Though the path was often strife-laden, he provided manna from heaven, quail for hunger, and water from rocks in compassion. With each miraculous provision, their trust in the Lord deepened, and through the seasons of trials and victory, an entire generation grappled with their identity, learning to lean into the promises God had made. He established his law through Moses, guiding their steps toward holiness and a life reflecting his glory, a covenant rooted in love. As days turned into years, they wandered, yet the vision remained clear. The birth of a nation that would bring forth the Redeemer, a promise echoing down through the ages. And those who walked in the wilderness clung to the reality of their deliverance, traversing the landscape of faith. In their struggles, they remembered how the blood marked their doorposts, a sign of God's covenant. Each new dawn was an opportunity to foster love and trust in the one who freed them from bondage. Thus, in the grand tapestry of God's sovereign plan, the story of the Israelites became a reflection of salvation woven together by the threads of hope. So it would be that one day, through their lineage, the Savior of the world would be born, Jesus, the Messiah, who would forever change the hearts of men and usher in an everlasting covenant of grace. To all who read, Consider the journey of faith that stretches across generations, woven into the very fabric of God's love, a promise that invites each of you into relationship. Hear the call to embrace this heritage and respond to the gospel that holds the power to transform, just as it transformed Israel. Now do not miss the chance to stay connected to God's living word. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss the next powerful biblical stories designed to inspire your faith. Leave a like now to help spread God's truth through the algorithm and ignite hope in the hearts of many. Comment below with your spiritual reflections. How has this biblical story impacted your faith journey? And remember, you can share this powerful testimony instantly with at least 5 friends who need to hear the transformative news of God's love. You need to act now to ensure that this divine message reaches more souls for Christ. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth and witness God's eternal promises come alive. Don't wait even one more second. Let us embark on this journey of faith together.